GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show where the candles are green and your conviction is louder than your wife's warning. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton. It's Tuesday, July the 22nd, and today we are once again joined by the one and only Scott Melker, the wolf of all streets. Today we're going to talk about, we're clearly in an alt season, but is this the real alt season? How long will it last? Where do we think it's going? And why Scott believes that right now might be the most bullish setup for Bitcoin ever. Before we jump in and hear from Scott, if you guys are thinking about how to get a 100x or how to get the outsized returns that are quite frankly very difficult to get in crypto, this is a cycle not like the past cycles. Well, the best way to do that is to check out our new product, Milk Road Degen, which we just launched last week. First report came out, and with that report, we talk about whether or not you should buy Pumped Up Fun and other meme coins that we are watching. It's our full watch list. Right now, you can get that 20% off. That discount ends today. So today is your last chance to get that discount. So make sure you hit the link in the show notes and check it out. If you are a Milk Road All Access member, you will already have access to that content. Today's episode is brought to you by Definitive, the leading multi-chain trading terminal, trusted by funds, DAOs, and pro traders. It's also brought to you by Ledn. Get cash without selling your Bitcoin. Without further ado, Scott, welcome to the Milk Road Show.
Thank you, sir.
Absolute pleasure to get you back on the show, my man. Okay, I got to start with what I think is the big chart, and I know you've been looking at this chart right now, and that's Bitcoin dominance. So look at this Bitcoin dominance. We were up 66% just a few weeks ago, and we've had one of the steepest declines in years in the last week, down sitting at 61% right now. A little bit of a bounce back this morning. When you look at this chart, what do you see?
I see that Ethereum is finally moving, and Ethereum is the bulk of the Bitcoin dominance chart, and that tells the entire story. So, I like a lot of people swear by Bitcoin dominance. When you chart Bitcoin dominance, which I still do, you're charting an asset that isn't traded. So it doesn't have true support and resistance and orders and human emotion necessarily reflected, but I still think it's useful. But to me, you can just look at your portfolio and I can tell you what Bitcoin dominance is doing, right? If all coins are down, Bitcoin dominance is going up because all coins are down, not the opposite. But it does give us a very clear gauge on what's happening. And like I said, I mean, Ethereum has finally made a sizable move against Bitcoin on the ETH BTC chart. I think it made its first higher high in 3 or 4 years. Like it officially broke, bearish market structure. So Ethereum goes, a lot of things follow. So we have definitely had a bit of a mini alt season, as you sort of alluded to, not like the ones of the past, but still really encouraging to see that there is actually money in the altcoin market still willing to play, and that all of it hasn't been sucked into treasury companies and stocks.
Yeah, let's chat a bit about ETH. So the key indicator right now is the ETH Bitcoin ratio, and it looks like it's possible that that has bottomed. It's always difficult to predict, and I might eat my words later, but my gut says that Bitcoin ETH has bottomed, which if you were to zoom out from where we could go from here, if Bitcoin ETH has bottomed, then you could imagine that ETH could end the year or end the cycle 7,500, and Bitcoin would still end the cycle somewhere in the 220 to 250,000 range, which really lines up with that. I think a lot of us were predicting coming in the cycle. Maybe some people thought ETH would get to 10K. What are your thoughts on Ethereum?
I think it does look like Ethereum should outperform as a trade from here. But to be clear, it's as a trade. So, if you're trying to buy an asset that you want to hold for 20 or 30 years, it's hard to beat Bitcoin. I don't think that there's much argument. But if you believe in the cycles, and it seems like we might be having a mini cycle right now, there are going to be times when you can theoretically, if you're a good trader, compound Bitcoin by trading in and out of altcoins, which is the only reason you should probably be doing that. But as I said, there's evidence. ETH BTC on the weekly chart, we flipped the 50 MA. That's the first time since 2023. It's made a higher high. You should expect that with some drawdowns in between, that you're going to have Ethereum continuing to do well. I think there's very good reasons for that. A, it's extremely beaten down. I mean, you had the chatter of Ethereum going to zero. It's been replaced by Solana. It's a terrible asset. The problems with the Ethereum Foundation, those to me are huge buy signals. To be fair, though, they've been buy signals all the way down from 4,000 to when it was 1,400, right? And last I checked, we're still not back at 4,000. So, it's hard to perfectly time that. But more importantly, listen, this treasury company strategy, I really feel like Ethereum has found its Michael Saylor in Tom Lee from Fundstrat, right? And it really, really the big catalyst was when he came out and made that comment on TV that Ethereum was the next Bitcoin, which, by the way, I disagree with. I love Ethereum, but I just disagree with them being even fundamentally compared. I think they're wildly different assets, almost a different asset class. But he said Ethereum's new Bitcoin and basically disclosed that he was, behind one of the big Ethereum treasury companies, Bitmine. That went up 3,800% in 5 days after that announcement, the stock. So if that wants to really give you an indication of how much froth and how much of an alt season there is going on with stocks, Ethereum's not going to go up 38 times or 37, 38, 39 times from here, even in the most bullish case, but a stock based on the idea that it's going to hold Ethereum can. So there's obviously a massive disconnect there. That said, that means Ethereum is going to keep moving up to sort of catch up to that hype, even to close that premium.
Yeah, let's Tom Lee's line was clearly a line that was stuck with a lot of people. And it's not just Tom Lee. We had Joe Lubin on our show yesterday. He's also
Nice.
out there being the next Michael Saylor, pounding the drum and really, really taking to the PR tour, which obviously Ethereum has lacked that for a long time. They have not had that marketing side.
I think Joe is a little different, in my opinion, because he's one of the founders of Ethereum. And so, and this is nothing against Joe at all. I think he's great, but it's always going to be viewed as talking your own book when you're talking about the asset that you were a fundamental part of from the beginning. Everybody knows you hold a ton of. It's different. People watched Michael Saylor in real time get orange pilled and progress into his, kind of all in strategy with Bitcoin. Nobody expected it from Tom Lee, and Tom Lee is not crypto native. He's obviously very bullish on crypto, has been for a long time, but he's a TradFi guy through and through that's on TV every single day that Wall Street listens to about every asset class, non-specific to crypto, and they all buy and use his research, right, from Fundstrat. So it's like Bloomberg, and so when this guy came out of nowhere and said Ethereum specifically, it was a way bigger catalyst than the guy who founded Ethereum saying Ethereum, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It feels like the Ethereum story, though, is bigger than it just being the next Bitcoin. It's also connected to Circle and stablecoins, and a lot of Wall Street wanting exposure to stablecoins and looking at Ethereum and saying, "Here's the play."
They are, and they're wrong. So, and that was Thomas Lee's point, and I like
This is why
Thomas
we got
once
to get
again,
you on
but
the
I
show, Scott. I love it when you tell people they're wrong.
totally disagree. Totally disagree with the premise that he made, and I think he made that premise because it would get Wall Street interested in buying the stock. So, as we know for a fact, stablecoins are on every single chain, right? And very widely distributed. You could even say at this point that stablecoins are chain agnostic and they're almost a commodity. Like there's a number of stablecoins and they'll go on any chain where there's going to be interest and action. So to pretend that Ethereum's value is because of stablecoins does not make much sense to me, especially when you know that more than 50% of USDT, which is the largest stablecoin, is on Tron. Right? Why isn't he saying Tron is the greatest asset that's ever existed? Once again, not a criticism. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to use that logic, you have to say everybody should be using Tron as a treasury asset because that's where stablecoins live and are primarily being used. So stablecoins are on every chain. As we've now got the Genius Act and stablecoins this wide proliferation, they're going to be on every single chain. You're going to have almost every one of them on every chain. So I just don't think that Ethereum uniquely captures that value. I think that Ethereum's value proposition goes back much further as being sort of the internet of value, the first to really initiate smart contracts, the amount of TVL that's there, the future of tokenization of real world assets. Clearly, the big institutions trust doing that on Ethereum more than any other chain, as evidenced by Franklin Templeton and BlackRock tokenizing treasuries on Ethereum. To me, there is a massive pitch for Ethereum, which is size, first mover advantage, and developer activity and all the things that are coming. Because its stablecoins isn't one of them. But if you wanted to send your stock up massively or get people to pay attention to the asset and understand it, well, we're getting stablecoin legislation in the same week he started talking about that. And Circle stock had just launched a few weeks before and gone up 20 whatever X. So that was the easiest explanation to get people bullish, and he executed that well.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Lee's a master storyteller for sure. And as you said, he had a vested interest as he launched his own Ethereum Treasury strategy company. So it makes sense. But I think that like it doesn't. The story is told that stable coins are going to be a big thing. Everybody knows that, and everybody wants the exposure and saw Circle. And we're obviously going to see a lot more IPOs coming this year. There's many more that are probably coming in the next 4 weeks. We're going to have a few, I'm guessing. So that will also allow, it feels like, we've talked about this before last time we had on the show, it feels like the year of public markets for crypto.
That's it.
That's the altcoin season. That's where you want to be investing.
I think I was one of the first people who just kind of said that the crypto adjacent stocks are the new altcoins. And if you were looking for alt season, that's where the money is. And I've been kind of beating that drum. Doesn't mean we won't get action in real alts. In fact, I think it's very encouraging what's happening with Ethereum. The fact that Pump Fund, for better or for worse, raised $500 or $600 million in 12 minutes means there were 500 or 600 million new dollars that were willing to invest in altcoins. So there is some speculative side. There's definitely some money that's still there. But institutional money just doesn't trickle down to the native assets, right? It trickles down to the ETFs or to the stocks where they can gain exposure. You can see what Coinbase is doing. Listen, Coinbase makes more money on USDC than Circle. If you want to make money on stablecoins, buy Coinbase, right? And so, like, if your argument is where will the value accrue, the people making money on the stablecoins are like Coinbase and Circle, not Ethereum, really, right? We all know that Ethereum fees are like next to nothing right now, and that doesn't even account for layer twos. But yes, BitGo just announced privately they're going to go public. Grayscale just announcing privately that they're going to go public. We know Kraken and a long laundry list of others. You have to do it now. This is the time, right? We've got midterms coming. This is when legislation is going to get on the books. This is when we have a friendly environment. And this is when there's hype. Like, this is the perfect time. I mean, think about Circle, right? They kind of led this charge. Actually, eToro led this charge, to be fair. eToro had an incredibly successful IPO just months before, which I think gave the appetite for many others to start looking. But Circle was going to do like a SPAC a couple years ago when we had the Biden administration and everybody hated crypto and nobody was talking about stable coins. Think about what a flop that would have been versus the perfect timing that they had with kind of legislative tailwinds and this, the structures of how they could do it. It just worked out perfectly for them. But yeah, I think that this is the moment for crypto stocks right now. I mean, look what miners have been doing over the past few days. Just booming, everything booming.
In traditional finance, whales use the Bloomberg terminal. In crypto, they use Definitive, the trading terminal built by Coinbase alumni, which lets you trade across every major chain out there. Definitive's combination of low fees and advanced order types like limit, stop loss, and take profit make it one of the best on-chain trading experiences there is. The kicker, Milk Road listeners trade free on their first 25,000 in volume. Visit milkroad.com/definitive and start trading like a pro today. Selling your Bitcoin should be a last resort when you need cash. That's why there's Ledn, the trusted platform for Bitcoin-backed loans. You can unlock cash in as little as 18 hours with no monthly interest payments and no prepayment penalties. They've issued over $9 billion in loans and never lost a single Satoshi of client funds, even during the chaos of 2022. If you're a long-term hodler, this is the move. Get liquidity without selling at milkroad.com/Ledn, spelled Ledn. Where do you think we go from here? That's the big question, always on everyone's mind.
Up.
Question.
Yeah, up. So like down, then up, then up, then down, then down, then up, but generally trending up. Like it's like the old meme. It's like what you think your portfolio is going to do. And it's just like this steady line up to the right. And then it's like pitfalls and dragons and sharks and spiky objects and right. And so like, and fire breathing in your face and hacks. So it's never easy. This has been a historically good summer. We should have seen, if you believed in the cycles and seasonality, we should have been suffering all summer. Instead, we've made new all-time highs with Bitcoin, and Ethereum's kind of breaking out, right? So it's been a tremendous time. So hard to predict based on previous, but like you would kind of expect that we'd cool off here for a month or two, and then maybe have a really bullish fall. But it kind of feels to me like all bets are off. Like markets are not doing the slow, boring summer thing. Qs are making new highs, NASDAQ, S&P, Dow Jones even about to make a new all-time high. Like it just feels like there's still a huge bid and a lot of people paying attention. So I like at my end of the year predictions. I don't know what numbers, but I think, significantly higher, like Bitcoin 150, Ethereum 5,000, 6,000, something like that. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that there's a lot of money, and even outside of seasonality and cycles and stuff, we just have all this new interest and all this new money. Like it's going to go somewhere, and I think that the pillbacks are going to just get bought by all these people on the sidelines that are waiting to get in.
Well, and we haven't had retail euphoria yet at all. There has
Yeah.
not been any, I'm not hearing like aunts and uncles, family not asking about Bitcoin yet, not talking about crypto. Google search trend, crypto and Bitcoin are not anywhere near all-time highs. They're seeing a little bit of an increase as a result of the price, but nothing taking off there. Like we are not in that euphoric phase or even close to it in my mind. So I think you can sit back and you can say it's been a different cycle. It's been an institutional based cycle.
Yeah,
But
100%.
there is still feels like a long way to go in this cycle. Now, the thing is that everybody needs to remember is like when this happens, it happens fast. Look what happened in the last 2 weeks alone. Like
Yeah, don't
this,
sit around and wait. You got to be in.
no, there's a chance that this altcoin season has already happened, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
know what your thoughts
literally
are. Do you
anything's
think?
possible. I mean, Ethereum popping right up to almost 4,000 is a pretty nice move, right?
Yeah.
And if Bitcoin pops up to like 125, 130, 135 here, or drops to 95 or 90, both of those are bad scenarios for altcoins in the short term, right? So the real question for altcoins is like, how long do you think Bitcoin will remain sideways, regardless of which direction it heads? Like we know that the minute it takes a significant move, it's either going to panic the market if it goes down, or there's going to be so much FOMO to get back into Bitcoin when it goes up. I mean, that's just how these cycles work. And we know that Bitcoin is the main focus. So just got to be really careful if you're trading around that.
Let's talk about the setup right now. You mentioned the Genius Act, so maybe let's touch on a little bit. Last week was Crypto Week. The Genius Act has passed. The Clarity Act, maybe a few hiccups, but seems like it's probably going to still go through. We're just waiting on that. How big of a tailwind is that? Market structure will
Big.
likely come very soon. Like let's talk through the setup that you see right now.
Well, we almost blew it last week, which is worth noting that the Republicans almost cannibalized themselves with the Freedom Caucus and blew the legislation that they've been pushing while the Democrats laughed on the sidelines and just prayed that they wouldn't have to jump in and be embarrassed by being anti-crypto. But in the end, Trump whipped everybody together and it seems that we got what we wanted. So the Genius Act passed. I think that was foregone conclusion we were going to get stablecoin legislation. Great that they got it done last week. The Clarity Act is big, but what was bigger in the Clarity Act was not just that it passed the House, but it passed with, I think, 70 Democrats voting for it, twice as many as even voted for FIT 121, which was wildly possible. I mean, this was one of the most bipartisanly clear and easy votes in history of Congress, period. Much obviously the most in crypto, but that goes without saying. I mean, Congress usually votes on party lines for literally anything. It could be like, should we, give like milk to baby goats to keep them alive, and be a bipartisan vote by like one. And you're like, goats are awesome. You should probably save the goats, right? But it just, and this was not like that at all. So clearly everyone's realized how politically unpalatable it is to be a member of the anti-crypto army, except for a few, old hags who are gonna, die with that as the last breathing words on their lips. But I mean, I think everybody else says, listen, there's a lot of crypto money out there for politics. I want to be receiving it, not having it attacking me, right? At the most basic level. So Clarity passes, it'll go to the Senate. It's going to require a lot of markup. And to be quite honest, it should. Clarity and market structure is really complicated. And to me, like stable coins, there could be some unintended consequences of doing things wrong. They could definitely have like cut out the tethers of the world in favor of, JP Morgan and such. But like not we're going to get stable coins and people are going to be able to use them, right? So it was more like what company might get hurt, but not the individual. When it comes to market structure, like if they deem the wrong things commodities or securities, or if they sort of put the wrong guardrails in process into action, like the unintended future consequences of going back could be like when we have had 4 years of comparing things to the Howey test from 1935, right? Like if the test is wrong and they get that wrong, we could just completely blow it for all of these assets in the future. I don't think that'll happen. They just need to be careful. Also, this could, like, market structure isn't just commodities and securities. It's like, what can exchanges do? What activities can they participate in? How do they have to separate custody from their brokerage business if they're allowed to do those things at all? Like, you got to remember, in TradFi, most companies can't do all those things, right? Like they have to use a separate custodian. Well, Coinbase is all those things. FTX was all those things, and we saw how that went, right? So I think that there's a lot more consumer protections built into this, and the way that the industry can operate, who can launch things, and how, safe harbor, just a lot, right? So they're going to need to get very strong opinions from very reliable industry leaders and get that right. So I hope that takes a little more time. As much as I want it just done, it has to be done right. And anti-CBDC is like a talking point. So they'll probably get that done, I would imagine.
What about if we shift from the legislation to more macro and the setup? When we look at the chart that everyone loves to look at, is the correlation between M2
Liquidity.
and Bitcoin. And that is the strong correlation that has been here for a long time. Everyone loves that chart on Twitter. And when you look at that, M2 is going up and Bitcoin typically lags by about 90 days. Would say to me,
Yeah, it's
again,
happening.
Great setup.
Thanks, Raul. Yeah, Raul Powell pointed that out to everybody about 1 million times, right? And definitely something that he's been right about. Turns out that when people have more money, they buy stuff. I know it's a mind bending concept, but yeah. But it's, sometimes KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? And we should have all paid attention to that and not the thousands of other things that we've obsessed about on a day-to-day basis. But I think that is a very compelling chart. It makes a hell of a lot of sense for a number of reasons. A, you have more money to buy things if there's more liquidity. But B, when there's more liquidity, it usually means that there's some sort of financial engineering and money printing and QE going on in the back. And that's what Bitcoin's built for. And whether it is a hedge against that or not, people believe it is. So they buy it for that reason too. So you kind of get the double-edged sword of people having more money to buy something that they want to buy because there's more money. Wow, I should use that one again. That was good. That was like that. I just had a moment, but that's really what's happening here, So I think that makes total rational sense that is happening, and I think it's going to continue. I don't think there's anyone on the planet who's like, governments are going to start being responsible and stop printing money now. This is their moment. We saw Doge. You see what Elon Musk is doing. We saw the big beautiful bill. Like, the attempt to cut waste and to cut the debt lasted about 5 minutes in the grand scheme of things, right before they went back to the old narrative of some inflation is good and we're going to grow our way out of this, baby. And growing just means printing money and sending the money to the right places. Right? So no, less people maybe are buying that this time, and we all know what that means for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think that we all can clearly see that there's no way out. No politician wants austerity. Nobody wants to
can't win
that path.
Yeah.
And even though Trump tried for a minute, as you said, and even Elon tried, they pretty quickly realized it wasn't possible. It's pretty clear that, and already we're seeing printing across the world. China and rate cuts. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Fed next week. It doesn't seem like we're going to get rate cuts anytime soon, although there is
They
definitely
shouldn't.
some. There's
Wildly
the Trump
unpopular
Powell
opinion, but they
battle.
shouldn't cut rates. And like I hate the Fed. I think it's the most corrupt organization. I absolutely think they should be audited, and that private banks should not control the monetary supply. And just don't even dive into the history of the Fed. And I think Powell was a clown on the way up with transitory inflation, and the Fed is always lagging, which I guess is the argument now, is that they're using old data and they're not looking forward. But like, if we truly believe the data, which nobody does, because especially job data, they revise it when you're not looking every single month to the opposite direction. But hey, let's pretend we believe that we have an extremely strong job market, very low unemployment, and markets at all-time highs. That is not, you don't cut rates into that. You cut rates when there's a problem and you need to buoy things. You don't cut rates when everything's great and add fuel to an inflation fire. So rationally, if you believe the data, the only reason you want to cut rates is because you want to print money and send irrationally high assets irrationally higher. But that's just creating a bigger problem down the road.
When let's zoom out for a second, look at Bitcoin versus gold, because everybody loves to compare it. And so far this year, gold is outperforming Bitcoin. Now, at the same time, when you zoom out, it is amazing to see that Bitcoin has become basically a tenth the size of gold. It's slightly below 10% right now. It's more like 9% in 15 years. Just an incredible like zoom out run. But people still love to say that, hey, it's not digital gold yet. Do you think that where do you think it's on its journey to becoming digital gold?
Yeah, I mean, I think the eventual path is parity with gold, right? Maybe that's a little too bullish, but if you really believe in the narrative that Bitcoin will become digital gold, then it should be as big as gold. So the question is whether that means gold continues up and Bitcoin catches up, or whether gold eventually comes down and Bitcoin eats its lunch and they meet somewhere in the middle is, I think, a big question. And I believed this a lot more when gold was like a $13 trillion market cap. Wherever it is now, 23, 24, where is it? I don't know where we sit. I haven't looked at the price of the market cap, but let's call it low 20s. It's a lot harder to catch up, right? So I think that it would require, for that to happen, less interest in gold and that flowing into Bitcoin for them to meet. But even if Bitcoin becomes 50% the size of gold and gold stays here or goes up, you're talking about absurdly high prices for Bitcoin. So for me, I love the digital, I should frame it this way. I love the digital gold narrative when it comes to the value proposition of Bitcoin, or its attributes, because it's a better version of gold for portability and, all these things. Fraction, it's easier to pay with, easier to carry, all the things. But I think people then conflate that with the fact that the price action should be the same, which I don't think is true at all. Right. And so you have some people who's like, Bitcoin's a risk on asset, it trades with the S&P. And then there's people who are like, Bitcoin can't be digital gold because it's not trading the same as gold. That value or properties are not the same as price. Right. And so like, that's in fact, the best investments are the ones where you find like Bitcoin, where the price has not caught up to the value. Right. Ask Warren Buffett, not on Bitcoin, but in general. And so I think that Bitcoin is uncorrelated when it comes to price, and that's its best attribute for an investor's portfolio. And I think it's always been that way, besides these kind of random walks in the park where it starts to correlate to either gold or the S&P. But it can't do both at some times and be correlated to either. And we have all the proof in the world that it's not the case. So I think that it's actually like minimizing to Bitcoin to say it trades like digital gold or it trades like a stock, because the fact is, I think it trades uncorrelated, and that's its best property.
Yeah, I mean, as we said at the beginning, really it trades correlated to money supply, because as people get more money and learn that the money system is a scam at the highest level, then we all look to exit it and to move our money into a trusted asset, a global asset, and one that we can easily move around. And so you catch the opportunity for Bitcoin is just, it's so massive and never ending. Scott, final thoughts before we let you go. What's your prediction for the next month? Where do you think we go from here in August?
Yeah, the next month is a tough one for me because, like, as I said before, the seasonality part says, go touch grass and things should, I'm not saying it means it's bad, it just should be boring. But I think just because crypto is catching such a mainstream fire right now, it's hard to think that it's ever going to be boring. I mean, the amount of news every single day is it's insane. I mean, what Coinbase launched perps yesterday. 3 days ago, Charles Schwab said they're going to offer Bitcoin and Ethereum trading, and it's going to be a part of your portfolio like all your securities, which means lending and whatever. And to follow that up, JP Morgan today announced they're looking at using cryptocurrencies as collateral for loans. These are the biggest announcements you could ever get. And they happen like in 3 days and get totally missed. Right. So I just don't think that slows down because I just think there's too many institutions and too many people who are trying to get in now or realizing they need to, that we're just going to get huge announcement after huge announcement after huge announcement.
I love it. Let's leave it on that note. Couldn't be more bullish. Scott, as always, thanks for joining the show. I got to remind everybody listening in that none of today's episode is investment advice. I'm not your investment advisor. Scott is not your investment advisor. If you need any help with your investments, you should speak to a professional. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you want to know which meme coins you should buy, and specifically if we think Pump.Fun is a good investment, or Hype, or how to farm an upcoming Hype airdrop that is in the future, you got to check out Milk Road Degen Pro. It's 20% off. Today is the last day to get that discount. Hit the link in the show notes. Sign up today. Hopefully we'll see you in the community. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Have a wicked awesome day. And finally, I've got to give a shout out to our partners over at Nexo. Have just partnered with the DP World Tour, one of the leading golf tournaments in the world, 45 tournaments across 4 continents. And they're going to have the Nexo Championship debuting this August in Scotland. So keep an eye out for that, because this is one of those things that feels very marketing talk, but I get super excited because when you think about sports and the crossover with the attention that it has and how many leading global brands are sponsoring massive sports tournaments, it's pretty exciting to see crypto brands sponsoring large sports tournaments as well. So hat tip to Nexo. Way to go, guys. Thanks as always for doing what you guys do in the space. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Have a wicked awesome day. We'll see you back again tomorrow. As always, if you liked today's episode, please hit subscribe and make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, we're going to also leave a link for Milk Road Pro. You get access to our portfolio where you can see exactly what we are buying. This is your #1 resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this show is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Investing in crypto or any asset is risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks so much for listening in, my friends. Have a wicked awesome day.